Greetings everyone and welcome to another edition of BlastCast. This is Jarvis, and once again with me as always is my bastion of common sense, Lightning Dragon, on this 100th episode of the BlastCast. Alright, so let's go ahead and jump into the news, and let's start with production updates. Last week we had 26 total blockers, and this week they kicked the crap out of it, dropping it down to 7. In fact, there was a dev that came out and said that after the post came out, they actually had it knocked down to 5. So it's very possible that we're going to be seeing the Evocati go live, well, I'm going to say 2 weeks. Let's say 2 weeks. I think one might be a bit too generous.
200 weeks.
200 weeks. 200 weeks. Lightning says 200 weeks. This Friday, the Origin X1 should go on concept sale. The Origin X1 is, of course, a ground vehicle. It's a more enclosed than the other ones we have seen. No, I mean, it's a hover bike and all that, but expect it to be like anywhere from, $40 for single, $60 for some sort of combo package, and maybe even a Space Kitty skin. No, I doubt they'll give that out, but still. And of course, being in our drought, we of course get one thing to talk about this week, which is, of course, is air traffic controllers.
Oh boy.
Well, I know.
I mean, this is probably the single greatest, episode of Round the Fail or whatever they've released thus far.
Well, yeah. The thing is that, I like the concept. I like seeing how that, the person in the station is a legitimate and real individual, and what he's doing there is transmitted real time to the person requesting landing or whatnot. And they're trying to add personality. They're trying to add some flair. They're trying to basically just make it as real for people either in the ship and also on the ground at the same time. But I keep thinking when I see that guy talking on the camera, someone's going to be trying to land and someone's going to run in with a gun in that control booth and start mowing everyone down, and someone's going to get to see that live. But fortunately, CIG has set it up as well that if the traffic controllers are if there's too much traffic, more than traffic controllers, you get an AI that will talk to you in a computer voice and guide you towards landing. So yeah, I kind of like the system. I think it's pretty cool, and it's just another layer basically of immersion, but not a whole lot to say on it, to be honest with you.
Prepare for griefing extraordinaire. If you can actually go up there and talk to those guys, imagine people going up there and killing them.
I know that's the first thing that popped into my head. It really was.
and you didn't mention it, so that's why I did.
I did mention. I said someone's going to come in there and mow them all down live.
Oh, my bad. I guess I'm not paying attention.
Wow. I need a new co-host. Okay. Well, I did actually put together a fun little video for you guys. A little while ago, I mentioned that there's an issue with pacing related to interactive mode. And so what I did here is I put together a short video that should hopefully explain what I call the pacing floor, where CIG, we had basically in 2.6, what happened is that they tried to lower the speeds, make the ships combat closer together, but it was found that basically when this happened, anyone who was using interactive mode was dominating so easily because no one can get out of the way of the point-and-click targeting. So, of course, in 2.6.3, they ramped it back up. So I want to kind of give you kind of an interactive demonstration and some articles towards the end that kind of explain a little bit. And you can find more articles than this in just a few minutes searching very, very easily. This is not a hard to understand or hard to find issue. And when I say interactive mode, I want to be clear before I play this clip. I'm not talking about the mouse flying the ship. I'm talking about the ability to basically control 4-axis with 2 axes on a device. Basically, a 0-point grid controlling the guns the same way that you would click on a folder on your desktop. As far as the mouse using for
but
flight,
now your desktop is in 3D and flying at hundreds of meters per second.
Well, yeah. So the thing is that like, as far as as IM itself, as far as the virtual stick portion of it, it's kind of a reverse virtual stick, and I have no issues with someone wanting to fly like that. I just don't like the fact that the guns are paired with it because, as you'll see in these articles, well, it's a gap that no game company has ever been able to bridge. All right, guys, so here you go. Pacing can be adjusted in many different ways. Fire rates, slew rates, acceleration rates, energy fuel regeneration for ship systems, etc. Correct pacing is key in games that have complex systems. The more systems and dynamics involved in a game, the more important it is to have the flexibility to create the pacing required to fully utilize these systems. Now I would like to demonstrate how zero-order targeting has created a pacing floor that has hamstrung CIG's ability to drop below a certain point of pacing, due to the necessity of dodging fire from this mechanic. For this demonstration, I would like you to use your mouse cursor to follow the target lead indicator. Try to stay as close to the center as possible. I'll play 3 different speeds to demonstrate the ease or difficulty of keeping an accurate track on your target's movements with zero order based on the pacing. Okay, now use your mouse to follow the animated cursor and pay attention to how difficult you find it to follow the pattern. This is more representative of 2.6.3 right now, basically where they had to go ahead and change the speeds back. Now I'm going to double the speed and have you keep up with the target again. Please note that it becomes harder to stay within the targeting reticule. And this was more representative of the old 1.3, which people refer to as hummingbirds on crack. I think actually 1.3 may have actually been faster than this. For the third test, I'm going to cut the speed in half of the original demonstration. Once again, take note of how much easier it is to now follow. And this one's more akin to 2.6, where they had basically slowed everything down, and as you can see here, well, why you can't miss. The reason I've had you do this is because I want you to consider that because interactive mode has a nearly instantaneous slew rate, the slower you set the pacing, the easier it gets to stay on target, and the harder it becomes to get out of the line of fire. This is what we experienced in 2.6, which ultimately led to the revision of flight in 2.6.3. CIG attempted to make combat closer and more visceral, but failed to address the totality of flight, which includes gunnery. Being trapped in a system of point-and-click targeting forced their hands to increase accelerations back. This task is by far even more difficult with first-order devices such as gamepads or joysticks. Even devices such as TrackIR face great difficulties as well. The faster the pacing, the greater the gap. There's a reason first-order deflection devices are not used for controlling your PC as a default, being that your desktop is best operated with a zero-order grid system. This makes aiming a Star Citizen akin to aiming at moving icons on your desktop. Turrets face a greater issue due to the fact that whatever pacing the game has, turret gunners have to deal with double. They have the target that they are tracking and have to deal with the movements of the ship the turret is attached to. Even with decoupling the turret to ship movements, eventually the target will be out of range of motion and force them to quickly acquire a new target or prepare for another opportunity. This is partially why CIG is now going to push automated turrets. In lieu of automating gimbals, such as the initial launch of Arena Commander, they are keeping in the control method that is forcing a pacing floor onto flight and then automating turrets, severely damaging the idea of multi-crew on ships. Considering the difficulties of manning a turret in a high-paced environment, it is doubtful that anybody will use anything other than automated turrets. Now, going forward, we will have MFDs that require to use your panels to adjust certain systems. CIG has stated that not all functionality will be available for hotkeys. The current pacing in the game will not allow any effective time during combat to use MFD exclusive functions. The lower the pacing, the more MFD use that can be allowed. Please note that this would also require a differentiation in flight mechanics to evolve past the face-to-face lateral strafing combat that is currently the meat and potatoes of Star Citizen. Also, add in the idea that ships are supposed to survive long enough for multi-crew to do repairs during combat, and you can see how the pacing is completely incorrect for the ideas they wish to implement. But CIG has effectively created a pacing floor for the game, which they cannot go under. Because they refuse to deal with the arcade mechanics of interactive mode, arcade and sim systems do not and will not ever blend. CIG needs to pick a direction, sim or arcade. The problems with blending first order and zero order mechanics have been going on for well over a decade, probably closer pushing towards 2 decades. This forum post from 2003 shows the same complaints that we're having by many of the backers in Star Citizen today. Freelancer's zero order targeting did not allow joystick users to effectively use the controls to engage in combat. This is a problem that has never been resolved. In more recent days, consoles are now dealing with the problem of people using third-party peripherals to enable mouse and keyboard controls on FPSs. In Overwatch, third-party mouse and keyboard control systems have created a massive imbalance for the game playing community. Blizzard has no effective way to resolve this issue. Now here's an article where they took a very high-ranked gamepad console team and paced them off against average PC players using mouse and keyboard. Even giving the console players auto-aim, the results were at best a tie, and both teams walked away feeling very unsatisfied from the match, feeling cheated in many different regards. As a more modern example, Destiny 2 is currently trying to bridge the gap between PC and console controls by creating a situation where the console players have auto-aim and recoil reduction to bring the levels to more even states. The problem with this is that using this system, it's still very possible for either through program or third-party peripheral. Once again, a keyboard mouse player can get around this by using the accuracy of the mouse and also getting the auto-aim by faking the computer out to believe that it's actually being played with a gamepad. There's no way to stop this. There's tons of emulation programs out there that can make one control appear to be another. And if there isn't something that works for this, someone will make one. The point is that there's always this unbridgeable gap, and this has been going on and on and on. To this very day, no one has effectively resolved this issue, so I don't see how CIG is going to pull it off either. If game companies like Blizzard, Activision, Microsoft, they can't resolve this issue, not effectively, then there is no place to try to blend first order and zero order in a sim game like Star Citizen, which has touted itself as the best damn space sim ever. Alright, and as we wrap up everything this week, and as I said, it's a really dry week and we're not getting much information at all. Hopefully there'll be a lot more hype when Evo Conti gets out there testing 3.0. But I just wanted to thank everybody. This is our 100th episode, as I said at the beginning. And I'm really grateful. We've had a lot of growth on this channel. There's been a lot of good discussions, a lot of familiar faces starting to pop up. And more and more, a lot of good questions. And, the way that Lightning Eye have approached this channel is that, we say what we feel about things. Popular, not popular. We're really just in it to be as honest as we can about the way that we feel about things. There's no point to doing this any other way. And we try to cover the topics and things that a lot of channels I feel just don't want to talk about. I think the only other person I've seen that's willing to discuss pitfalls is Minion Soldier. A lot of other channels out there, they're really just kind of, they're cheerleaders and all that. And that's nice and all, but during the development cycle, I think it's important to point out the good and the bad. And you have to hold them accountable to these things, or at least make them aware of them. Or if they're going to change them in the future, then hey, please tell something to the community, because there's a lot of controversy about a lot of different topics.
And unfortunately, it's also the internet, so,
Yeah.
you could ask 100 people on the internet what you feel about X, and you're going to get, 100 different answers. At best, you're going to get about 2, camps, they don't like it, or they think it's fine. It's usually what happens, and it's just varying degrees of that. But we're in this unique position, most of us anyway, where... Star Citizen is still much in development, and they're still kind of taking ideas from us. And, there's a lot of games that they're good games, but when they release, you're like, well, why did they do this? And it'd be better if they did this. And some of those games are lucky enough to have modding support, where Star Citizen, it's going to have it, but I don't think you're going to have modding support on a massive multiplayer level. So that's why it's most important to get all these things as good as they can get now, rather than, we'll get it in 3.0. Oh, we'll get it in 4.0. Oh, we'll get it in alpha. Oh, we'll get it in beta. That's that's not the time to change things. I mean, that's what the beta is. Beta is when you're kind of fixing all the bugs.
Yeah,
Alpha is when you're getting your ideas all fleshed out, which is now.
Yeah, and you see a lot of that in the forum boards. Oh, it's just an alpha. It's like, I'm sorry, but there's some things that just aren't excusable even in an alpha state. And right now, I feel that in Star Citizen, there's a real identity crisis about what the game is trying to do. There is the arcade side that they're trying to promote. There's a sim side that they're trying to promote. They don't mesh. And instead of taking the, throw it at the wall and see what sticks approach, I want them to pick a direction. Now, look, I would respect them if they just came out and said, we're doing arcade controls, and that's the end of it. As long as they're cohesive, as long as the game is cohesive, everything has to flow in a way that works together. Or if they come out and say, we want it to be a sim light, and I don't mean like DCS. I say sim light, I mean exactly that. We want to have a sim-based game with sim-based pacing. Fine.
But it doesn't have to be subjected to real-world physics.
No, not entirely.
Otherwise, you're going to start kind of going like, well, this is a really good, space simulator, but it's not a very fun game. And that's kind of what Star Citizen's trying to do. And that's what most people want. They don't want a, DCS.
Yeah, and the bottom line is cohesion, though. I mean, you have to have a vision of how you want things to handle, how you want them to fly, how you want them to interact, how fast do the guns fire, how fast is the ammunition that comes out of those guns. If you close your eyes and see that in your head, as a developer, when I look at Chris Roberts' initial pitch video, a lot in that still to this date looks way more appealing than what we currently have. And it really comes down to, as I said, an identity crisis, and I think it has to do with the fact that, they have a lot of FPS developers and a lot of people that haven't worked on this kind of game before. And I think they need to get someone in there that's really kind of versed with this. So we'll see what happens. But I just want to also let you know that we're actually looking to expand this channel just a little bit. After 3.0 goes out, we're looking at doing a series where Lightning Dragon and I are going to go out there exploring around and just sharing our experiences with you.
Probably dying a lot, or trying stuff that maybe you wouldn't try normally if it was permadeath was on. You shouldn't try.
You should not try this at home. But anyway, we're gonna have fun, and we've been waiting on this for a little while now, and we wanted to start this a while ago, but obviously for obvious reasons, we can't do it yet.
Because 3.0 is not out yet.
Exactly. So we'll have to just kind of be in a holding pattern until then. And eventually someday down the road, if the internet where I live gets to be better someday, I would like to go and start doing live streaming again. But as it stands right now, the last couple times I tried live streaming, the quality was really substandard. I was like 480p kind of stream video quality. Don't want to put out something that low. So, all right, guys. Well, I guess that's about everything for this week's BlastCast, and we will go ahead and see you next time on whatever show we're doing, either Citizens Corner or another BlastCast. And keep your fingers crossed. We're getting real close. Have a good one.